Hello, guys. One of the questions I get the most these days is this the last bull run? Will we have others? Now, I'm going to tell you, this bull run might be the last really, really big one for Bitcoin. We'll have other bull runs, of course, but they might not be nearly this big. But I think the bull run for altcoins might actually be not this bull run, but the next one, and I'll explain why. One of the things for Bitcoin is each bull run is going to be successively ROI less than the last, and that's really just because of the market maturing. If we look at 2017, 2021 is significantly less than that. This one might actually equal 2021 because we have the ETFs coming in. Now, some of you are saying, won't the ETFs mitigate out the volatility? Well, sort of, but that's more in the long run. We're talking about this year or next year, and that's going to be a lot of inflows. The only thing that's really keeping us down right now, if you believe that leak we just reported yesterday, is that FTX has to liquidate $1 billion on the Grayscale ETF, and that's about done right now, which is I think why you haven't seen it dump much below 40,000 in the last couple of days. Now, the thing is, once that stops, there should be slow creeping demand for Bitcoin that should actually float it up. And that's why we can take it to 150,000, 200,000, or maybe even higher. And that's going to be, 3 times basically what the last all-time high was, possibly even higher if the Qatar stuff coming in, And that's why I say this might be the last bull run for Bitcoin. I mean, not last bull run, but last really big bull run for Bitcoin, because that ETF money is going to come in. And despite all the mechanics to moderate the volatility, whether it be futures, options, or any of that other stuff, I don't think it's going to offset the amount of demand there is for Bitcoin ETF. We saw the ETF launch. Even if you take out Grayscale, it's record-setting volume for ETF. So there's obviously a lot of demand. Institutions are going to come in, and that's the first spout of institutional money, whether the bull run is this year or next year. You remember what happened to gold after it got the ETF? It kind of moderated for a while, but then it shot straight up. And I'm looking at this bull run to actually be that. But afterwards, after that bull run, Bitcoin kind of moderated out. Now, gold doesn't actually have a halving where you can only mine half of what you mined every 4 years. So it doesn't have that mechanic. So I do think Bitcoin will at least double every 4 years. But the top won't be quite as high, and because there's institutional investment in ETFs, the bottoms I don't think are going to be quite as low. So the band is going to be much lower for Bitcoin, or smaller for Bitcoin than it has been in the past. You might only oscillate 4x from top to bottom instead of 10x from top to bottom. So that is why Bitcoin might have its last big bull run this time, but it will still have bull runs, and there'll still be plenty of time to make money. Remember, 100% returns in 4 years in any other market is great. It's just that crypto people kind of have a warped view of what's a good ROI. Now, altcoins, why would the next bull run be the biggest one? Well, if you look at the schedule, generally, if your coin doesn't have a futures ETF, from when you don't have anything to when you get a spot ETF, it might be 16 months because the SEC's approval period for anything is 8 or 9 months. They generally drag it until the next day. And generally, for both Bitcoin and Ethereum, why Bitcoin got approved and why I think Ethereum is going to get approved is because Bitcoin has a futures ETF first. And since futures and spot are exactly the same thing, in court, they couldn't argue why they wouldn't have a spot ETF. And it's the same thing for Ethereum. That's why crypto mommer Hester Pierce said, we won't need a lawsuit for this one. We're just going to follow the Bitcoin path. They let an Ethereum futures ETF through, and since they're backed by the same thing, Gary Gensler and the rest of the commissioners have zero reason to actually deny the Ethereum ETF. The centralization, the staking, I don't really think that plays a role at all in the ETF coming on board. I do think we will have an ETF by May. Now, if you look at any of the other coins in the United States, yes, SIX in Switzerland has a bunch of ETPs for different coins, but that doesn't really matter because Uncle Sam doesn't care about anyone else. We only care about us because we're in America and we're number one, folks. Yeah, whatever. But anyways, because none of these other coins actually have a futures ETF in the United States, you would have to file for one and get it approved first and then file for your spot ETF. So 8 months for the futures ETF, 8 months for the spot ETF. We're looking at the second half of 2024, 5 at the earliest. And that's to say, no one's even filed one of those futures ETFs already. And I think they're going to wait for the resolution of either the Coinbase case or the Ripple case, and that might not come until summer. So you're looking at the beginning of 2026 as the future, as the first altcoin ETF. Now, I think after the first altcoin ETF gets it, a lot of them are going to get it like right afterwards. Whether they're like, multi-coin, like large cap funds or just specific altcoin funds, I think you're going to see a lot of them during the next bear market. Remember, by 2026, the bull market should actually be over, and we're probably in another bear cycle. May not be as bad. I think it would be pretty devastating for altcoins, but not as bad for Bitcoin in the next alt market because the ETF and altcoins don't have one. But as these altcoins actually get ETFs, they'll start to have like inflows and outflows as well, especially the large ones. And I think like only really top 10 coins have any chance of really getting an ETF. But that'll pull the rest of the alt market up as well, and you will want to see which coins actually eventually get ETFs. But that'll affect all the alt market because people are going to be excited that their altcoins could possibly get an ETF. But remember, since you're getting them in 2026, 2027, it's not going to play into this bull run. It'll play a lot into the next bull run in 2028, 2029, because that's going to be the first bull run where altcoins actually have ETFs, and there's going to be a lot of inflows and a lot of excitement, and you can bet a lot of altcoins are going to be trying to get their ETF in. Now, like I said, I don't think like top 10, top 15 have any kind of chance, but that's probably enough to rile up the rest of the market and get people to actually take altcoins seriously, and that actually can be when we actually start decoupling really from Bitcoin. It might actually take Wall Street and traditional money to come in for these altcoins to decouple from Bitcoin. And I think might have like an altcoin crazy situation in 28, 29 in that area. Yes, you have to wait for like 4 or 5 more years, but what's 4 or 5 more years compared to, forever? You've been working, some of you, for 20, 30 years, 5 more years, nothing at all, unless you're going to die in the next 5 years, in which I say don't die because you're going to miss a lot if you do. So that's my kind of reasoning why Bitcoin might have its like last huge bull run, this bull run, but the altcoins might have their mega bull run next bull run. Will that bull run equal 2017 altcoins? I'm not really sure. 2017 altcoins was really crazy. Everything was kind of new. Most people were not in it before 2017. So like it was just kind of a new thing for everyone and it went crazy. But it might be able to rival 2017, especially if you have a lot of these altcoins getting ETFs, which I think they will. Remember, the Coinbase case is like an overall case for all the secondary market. And it's actually more important than the Ripple case right now because, if the SEC gets that case dismissed or they lose that case in court, which they possibly could, it might rule that staking coins are not, like just because you're staking, it's not a security, which would actually get a lot of coins off the hook. And B, all secondary coins are not securities, which would rip the SEC's argument basically cleanly in half. And the SEC would actually lose all power. Just that clarity will definitely help altcoins, and it might boost them this bull run. But those ETFs that are coming, they're going to take 1.5 years, 2 years to actually get here. So they might not get here until 2026, maybe into 2027. And that's the depths of the next bear market. The bear market may not do much for them when they get ETFs, and they might actually get an initial dump, just like Bitcoin's gotten an initial dump. But the next bull market after they get them, oh man, that's going to be like some fireworks right there. So you might have to wait another 5 years for another like the giant altcoin bull run, even though I'm sure you'll get altcoin returns this time around. The biggest returns might actually be next time. The thing that you've been waiting for from 2017 onward could actually finally materialize in 2028, 2029. 10 years, a decade full of waiting for another mega altcoin run. Seems very, very fitting, and that might be the last huge run for crypto altogether. Once again, I'm sure after that, because of the halving cycle, because of how Bitcoin works, there will be ups and downs. And I think something eventually is going to have to replace Bitcoin. But that might not be as big of a deal if traditional money comes in and everything starts decoupling from Bitcoin, because then replacing Bitcoin only really affects Bitcoin, and it doesn't actually affect all these other coins. So that's like kind of the goals I have for Wall Street actually coming in, to actually decouple everything from Bitcoin once they all get their own funds. Because honestly, Bitcoin's halving system cannot last for more than a decade and a half. And it would be disastrous for the altcoin and the crypto market if it kept following Bitcoin forever. Because I've explained the conundrum from Bitcoin before. You need the hash rate to keep the security up, but to keep the hash rate up means the price needs to double every 4 years at least, and that's if the hash rate doesn't actually increase. If you get the hash rate down, you take the security down, it makes it much easier for people to actually attack it. And the whole thing just kind of like falls apart unless you have exponential growth. And obviously, we all know you can't have exponential growth basically forever. So it really can't be maintained. I don't know if you're going to convince Bitcoiners to actually switch to proof of stake, because they also want to keep like a limited supply at 21 million. So there's a lot of problems with that right now. And I think it would be really bad if we didn't switch over from that kind of model for the index by like 10, 15 years from now. So hopefully that actually gets resolved, or hopefully everything just decouples so no one really cares anymore. But yeah, that's my reasoning why the Bitcoin bull run might actually be this bull run, but the altcoin bull run might be the next bull run. And the Bitcoin decoupling might actually happen the next bull run as well. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe, hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.